Like, yeah, families should be ripped apart. That's kind of our energy. Like, we should rip people apart from their families.
Are you a man?
Wow.
Wow, is that a question?
Wow.
Okay. How do you feel about ripping people from their families? Does that feel good?
House nigga in here. Sir, I need to move. Look at house nigga working for the KKK.
Why are you calling a woman a man? I mean, what kind of a guy does that?
He's fucking house nigga, bitch.
Neighbor.
No one for your fucking slave.
A warning for what, sir? A warning for what?
A warning to quit following our vehicle.
Because?
Because we're conducting law enforcement operations.
Yes, and we're allowed to film you doing those law enforcement operations. We still have a First Amendment, sir. We are not impeding your operations. We're merely filming them.
Now you are interfering with our operations, so do not continue to follow.
The Democrat uprising in Minnesota is exposing just how weak the Democrats really are. It's ironic because the Democrats believe that being anti-ICE is a winning strategy. They think it's going to grow their coalition and propel them to victory in the midterms or even beyond, but incidents like that, they keep happening, they keep going viral, and again, they just showcase how fragile the Democrat coalition really is. It's just a house of cards waiting to come down. So what I love about that clip is, number one, the ICE agent is black. You know, the Democrats have pushed this narrative for years that President Trump, he's a racist, he's a white supremacist. It's people who believe in white power who voted for Trump, and it's just white racists who serve on ICE. And yet we've seen again and again and again, ICE is very diverse here. Again, obviously a black male, and he is at wit's end, right? He's been patient. ICE agents have been followed around, harassed, whistles are being blown at them. So when he's asked this loaded question, he actually throws it back at them. Are you a man? And by the way, he said that to a trans woman. So of course the crowd, the woke crowd, they lost their mind. They can't figure out which victim is worse. The people who are here illegally being deported back to their home countries, or this trans woman who the ICE agents just called a man. They were so furious about that. But the next part was really interesting because as he drives off with the rest of the agents, they started yelling the N-word after him. Now, you didn't hear it because I clipped it out. Obviously, I didn't want to play it for you, and that would also go against YouTube's terms of service. But if you listen closely to the silences, you can see where it fits in. So here is this woke white crowd, obviously all Democrats, calling a black man serving the country the N-word. Who's the racist now? They claim that the Republicans are racist, yet the N-word just came out so freely. It's not a word that you just accidentally say. You know what I mean? There are some words that maybe slip out of your mouth, and those are usually words that are used in your daily or at least frequent vocabulary. But the N-word is hopefully something that you don't use a lot. It's not something that should just slip out, and yet they said that. And so again, this is the point that I'm making here as far as the Democrat Party. They don't really have a coalition of shared values. The Democrat Party, all they do is they target identity groups. They target victim groups. And a lot of these groups don't really overlap. The best example of this, of course, is what we saw a few summers ago. The pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas group, as well as the pro-LGBTQ plus whatever it is group. Those obviously cannot overlap, and yet the Democrat Party is trying to appeal to both of those groups. And it's only going to be a matter of time until they start eating each other alive, like we saw in this video. White Democrat liberals, woke liberals, calling a black man the N-word. On top of all of that, when you take a look at the specific policies, all the minority groups are on the same page. For example, it's really difficult to talk about illegal immigration and borders without also talking about election security. These two topics have some overlap. Well, the Democrats claim that voter ID is racist. Nicki Minaj came out recently in favor of voter ID, and the Democrats, well, they lost their minds over it. You know, they called her a traitor. They called her all sorts of nasty names. But when they took a look at whites versus blacks versus Hispanics, guess what? They all overwhelmingly support voter ID. Even CNN admitted this.
Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
So something of a
Yeah. So if Democrats keep pushing back on that issue, they're only going to lose some of their voter base. It's eventually going to boomerang on them. Now, the Democrats actually know that they're losing the narrative right now. And you can prove this based on what they're talking about. For the last few weeks, they've been saying, we need to unmask ICE agents. We need to know who shot, who killed Alex Preddy. Well, yesterday we found out who those ICE agents were, because there were two. One of them fired most of the shots, but there was another who did fire shots. And you would think that after the outcry, oh, unmask the agents, tell us their identity, that this would be all over cable news. All the Democrat influencers would be talking about it, yet crickets, radio silence. Where did all of the interest go? Look, I'm not doxing the ICE agents. This is publicly out there, but according to The Guardian, 2 federal agents reportedly identified in fatal shooting of Alex Preddy. And here they are. On the left, Raimundo Gutierrez, and on the right, Jesus Ochoa. Now, if it wasn't already obvious from their names, it should be obvious from their pictures that they are not white. They're not of European descent. And the reason I bring that up is, again, because the Democrats have claimed President Trump is a racist. Only racists join ICE. It's white supremacists trying to kick out the brown people. Yet here, it was 2 brown guys, 2 Hispanic guys who shot a white man, Alex Preddy. If the roles were reversed, if it were a white cop or a white ICE agent shooting a black man or a Hispanic man, there would be cries of racism everywhere. Yet this goes against the leftist narrative, and that's why they just dropped the issue. They went on so long, oh, we need to know their identities, and now that their identities have been made public, they don't want to talk about it. It's because it exposes the Democrat grift for what it is. Look, I'm not saying it's going to happen in time for the midterms or even 2028, but I would bet that it's only a matter of time until the Democrat base figures this out, that they realize, hey, we've been used and abused. Because these are all just different classes of victimhood groups. They've been told by the Democrats, hey, you guys have grievances. Let us tell you what your grievances are, and if you vote for us, we'll fix them. Eventually, the voters are going to wake up and realize, hey, I don't have anything in common with that group over there. We don't have a shared identity. We don't have shared politics, let alone policy agreements. And when that happens, it's going to be a disaster for the Democrats. And that's what we saw at the beginning of the video, right? You have a black ICE agent going against a trans activist. It's not going to work out well for the Democrat Party. And it's especially not going to work out well when their representatives are openly calling for violence. This was Jerry Nadler in the House today. I mean, this is as blatant as you get without saying, hey, you should go out there and hurt someone.
The tax cuts on millionaires and billionaires enacted over the last 10 years. But what is really the major problem in this country today is the fascism in our streets. The attacks on American citizens by masked hoodlums. If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person to protect yourself.
Now, look, in general, I don't believe law enforcement should be masked. I would prefer if ICE wasn't masked, but I understand why, in the current context, they have to mask up, because they are being doxxed, they are being threatened, not just on the job, but at home. And by the way, not just the agents themselves, but their family members, their loved ones. This is an issue of security for everyone involved. And for Jerry Nadler to say that as a representative of the people, I think, is not only unbecoming and inappropriate, but quite frankly, it sounds like incitement. I don't know how else you could spin that. If President Trump said something like that, you know the Democrats would accuse him of inciting an insurrection, inciting violence. Yet Democrats, they use this language all the time, and no one cares. No one blinks. Speaking of which, Eric Swalwell is doubling down on his crazy idea to attack ICE agents. But before we get into that, I would like to thank the members of today's Governor's Club. They are Rhodes Villobo, Super Romer ×2, Bama Riddenauer, Liz Carla, Kathleen Ide, and the Herrings 3. These are people who give tips and super thanks to the channel. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you enjoy. So Eric Swalwell is running for governor of California. He is one of the favorites to win as of right now. You know, I believe he's like 3rd place in the polling, and this far out, there's obviously a lot of ups and downs that can happen, but he obviously has a lot of name recognition. Listen to what he wants to do to ICE agents, what he wants to do to people serving in the federal government.
If you still work for them, that's a decision. And I'm saying, as a governor, I'm going to make a decision that you can't work in the state. I also am calling on every governor, use your emergency powers and take away the driver's licenses of these folks who don't want to wear or don't want to take off their mask.
So you want to remove their ability to commute, to travel from one place to another, their ability to work. I mean, if they can't do that, how are they going to make a living for themselves? How are they going to provide for their families? At the end of the day, this all just goes back to how out of touch the Democrat Party is as a whole. And that's why they have to rely on identity politics. That's why they have to rely on grievance and victimhood, because they don't actually have solutions. They don't have policies that are popular. The majority of Americans believe in law and order. The majority of Americans believe in borders and making sure that we enforce them. And guess what? They also believe in voter ID. If the Democrats keep ignoring these facts, if they ignore what the people want, they only will have themselves to blame when they inevitably lose and get wiped out. Again, I'm not saying that that's going to happen in the midterms necessarily, or even in 2028, but there's gravity, political gravity, and it's going to boomerang. They threw up this mayhem, and it's only a matter of time until it comes down and just whacks them on the head. As always, though, all of this is just my analysis and commentary. That's what's happening in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So what do you think? Do you think that opening clip of the black ICE agent and the trans activist was just a unique moment, and that's why it's going viral and everyone's talking about it? Or do you think that it is symbolic? It is indicative of these different factions that the Democrats are going after, and how, hey, these groups really don't align. There is no ideological coherence here, and the Democrats, they're just banking on victimhood. Let me know how you view it down in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to leave me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.